a cock 45. You see a pretty gun on the shooting table? I do. Colt Trooper Mark III. Yes. Thanks to the gun parlor in Worcester, Massachusetts, who sent it to us as a gift, a donation to the cause. And we really appreciate it because, you know, I love old revolvers. Hard to believe this is an old revolver, because I recall going into gun shops and there'd be these in every shop for sale, new, you know, Colt Troopers, Pythons, you know, Smith & Wesson model 27s and 28s and all that. The gun shops were just loaded with those sorts of things, and including these. So pretty cool. We thank the gun parlor. So we're going to try it out. Now, you notice it's a used gun. I guess that goes without saying almost. It was made in '76. I researched the serial number. And whoever owned it has kind of some target grips on it. And I don't know if he or she did some work on the trigger, had it done, but it is extremely light. Okay, so be careful with that. Warn me if I start to get too trigger happy, okay? But these are just neat old guns, and let's just take a couple shots with some of our fine federal ammo here. We'll start out with some big boomers, 357 Magnum. Oh man, revolvers are fun. These are 158 grain, soft nose, I guess half jacket, what are they called? They're called jacketed soft point. There you go. I was close. Trooper Mark III. Oh boy. Now, I've not shot it too much. Just enough to adjust the sights back down. It was shooting high. All right. Let's just try Mr. Cowboy. Hold it right in the middle of him and see where it goes. That's pretty close. Yep, that's about where I was holding. Okay, let's try a 2-liter. Might be a hair left, I don't know. Oh boy, nothing like a revolver. Oh, there you go. See, it has a light trigger. I didn't mean to touch it off quite yet. Meant to touch that one off though. Colt has the cylinder release that's opposite of the Smith & Wesson. You pull on it instead of push. Okay, never did like that too much, but it's a classic revolver. It's a little different. I'm not carrying this for self-defense, so I don't really care. I didn't bring anything from Anthony's. Neat. This was the I view these as kind of the L frame of the Colt line. Again, back in the day, the 70s, this is when I was getting started shooting a lot more and collecting guns and everything. And the 357 Magnums before the Troopers came out basically were those big Smith & Wesson end frames. If you're familiar with the Model 28, which is the Trooper model in the Smith & Wesson, it's an end frame with the big, it's a big gun, big gun with 357 chambering in it. And it came out, I think, in '35, and when the 357 came out, that was the gun it was introduced in. I believe I'm right on that. The Model 27, Model 28, the big end-frame Smith & Wesson. So, if you had a 357 Magnum, that was a very powerful round, generally considered to be the most powerful round, pistol round, handgun round to date, I think, in 1935, in a full load, in a full power load. And so if you were around in 1940, 1938, 1947, whatever, your vision of the 357 Magnum were those big in-frame Smith & Wessons, really. And in the 50s, Colt decided to come out with a more of a mid-sized gun, the Trooper, and it was the original Trooper, I think 38 and then 357 as well. All right, so they really kind of introduced the L-frame, the Smith L-frame in a way, because that's really about the size of this and the Python. They're kind of an L-frame gun, really. And a little smaller than the big end frame, but still big enough to handle the 357, quite well, all right? And then the Mark III came out, and it was '69. I think they made these, this was kind of an improved Trooper, so to speak. Has well, let me go ahead and show you. It has a transfer bar. They changed the spring. They really revamped, Colt did, and they changed some things. It has this transfer bar under the hammer. See, it comes up, and when you pull the trigger, the hammer actually hits that transfer bar and it fires it. Okay, so you have to have the trigger pulled for it to fire. So if you let your finger off the trigger after you, okay, I pulled the trigger just then. Now I'm taking my finger off the trigger. Now if I let that fall like that, it would not fire even if there was a round under there, because it needs that transfer bar, and it stays up only if I have the trigger pulled. See, I've got pressure on the trigger, but when I let off the trigger, it falls down, so the hammer will not contact the firing pin. That's a safety, that transfer bar system, and I believe they were the first with it. Colt was. Okay, and they changed from the flat springs to coil springs, stainless, coil, and even the manufacturing process. So the Mark III, they felt like, oh, this is cool. They really revamped it, and it was pretty popular. Again, 69 through 82, very popular, and not as expensive as the Python. The Python, some of you Python experts, I've had 3, 4, 5 of those things in my life, and I love the looks of them, but I never did enjoy shooting them as much because of the different cylinder latch. The grips never felt really good to me as a Smith did. So, I mean, it sounds like, yeah, you didn't like a Python because they were too expensive. It's not that. It's not rationalization. I traded them or sold them for different guns over the years. And I'd always end up with another one because I just love the looks of them, but I'd end up trading them for something that I enjoy shooting better, okay, or enjoy shooting more. But man, they're classics. There's no doubt about it. And but this Trooper, and as I understand, the Python, I know they're a little more finicky. They were designed to be more of a target revolver, even though they were carried by some cops and other people, but they're really high performance. They're almost like a racehorse in a lot of ways. Where I think this gun, the Trooper models, were designed to not be quite so finicky in terms of the action and everything, and be a more of a carry gun. Hence the name Trooper. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's more the case, because a lot of the Pythons I've had were actually out of time. They really needed some gunsmithing on them, and they weren't that old. Okay, Trooper, classic. Oh, this thing was made back in '76. I bet there was some pot smoking going on back then, so let's do something with it right now. And 2-liter action. Woo. I don't know if those existed back then. I don't remember. Oh boy, I smeared it everywhere, didn't I? Let's put one on the gong. Sounded like I hit it. Not sure. Well, that one did. Any more rounds? Did he fire 5 or did he fire 6? Now with the Colt, the cylinder turns clockwise. Notice that? No. We'll do that I was going to demonstrate something. Let's do that with some specials. Okay, let's put the last one. Oh, let's hit that little plate that is supposed to slide down that post if you hit it. Oop, there he goes. Yeah, your cylinder turns the opposite way, and that's just the way a Colt is. Okay, Python's the same way. Pretty neat. And this gun has enough heft to it that it absorbs the recoil pretty well, because these are pretty warm, these Federals. Okay, so that is a good looking gun. They really nice bluing back then, and the finish work and everything back then was usually really well done. We'll use some more 357 mags here. Just don't see many of these. These are really collector's items. So this is not a cheap gun. This is not some old junky revolver that the gun parlor decided to dump off on somebody. They wanted to send us something to help us out again. And I said, you got a couple of revolvers on your list there, or used revolvers. How about that Trooper? You looking for a home for that baby? And I mean, these things, I think the price they had on was like $850 or something. They can sell anywhere from, I guess, $600, $700, $1,500, $2,000, depending on the condition and the model and all that kind of thing. So you've seen the prices on the Pythons. They're in the stratosphere, of course. So it used to be referred to as a poor man's Python in a lot of ways. But then again, it's a different gun. So it's not just a poor man's Python. Let's try a couple on the target. Can't see the sights all that well here in the dusk, but I'll put some maybe in the black if I'm lucky. but they went somewhere on the paper. Let's try a ram. Wow, looked like it went high. Okay, not sure where that one went. We're out of ammo on that. Let's try some specials just for kicks. Although those don't kick. Try some of these 125 grain jacketed hollow point rounds. Again, that's the beauty of the 357. You can shoot 38 special in it. You can find some relatively inexpensive 38 specials. These are not necessarily too cheap because they're let's see what exactly. Yeah, they're plus P, and they're a round that a lot of people carry for defense, even in a 357. So in their hollow point, but they still have a little bit less punch. All right, let's try a ram again. Now we may have a different point of impact. A lot lighter. Got him. He's probably not going to fall. Let's try that turkey up there on the top. Ooh, flop. He fell over. I really can't see that front sight very well. I'd have to do like I did with most of my revolvers back in the 70s. Paint that. Maybe not use fingernail polish this time because there's some good sight polish available out there. That's a pretty finish on that. Oh boy, nice. Let's go double action on the Cowboy. Click. All right. Got a pretty nice double action. A little stiff, but that's okay. Try a few more of those. I like those. That's the beauty of a 357. You can put rounds in this thing that you almost can't feel in terms of recoil. And these are actually defensive loads, and they are very light with a 6-inch barrel. And then you can even go way lighter if you want to, like these. Yeah, well, yeah, I think these are even lighter, 158 grain lead round nose. These are really classics. They ought to be fired in an old gun like this. It's too bad Colt doesn't make revolvers like this anymore, isn't it? Colt's had a tough time through the years. They've had labor issues, had to cut costs here and there, quit making revolvers. In fact, recently they almost went bankrupt, so you just never know what's going to be going on at Colt. Let's see how these feel. Yeah, pretty nice. Put a couple on the target. Oops, I was way off. Got away from me. Click. Click. Okay. Nice. I will probably, the next time you see this, I will probably have some original grips on it. These are hand filling, I'll have to say, but for a classic revolver like this, I will probably fork over some pretty big bucks, I guess, and find some original grips. Let's go back to Magnums, since it's a 357 Magnum. Okay. Again, speed loaders are available. In fact, I've got some speed loaders that would probably work. I don't always use them. I'm not in that big a hurry. I know you all are, but let's see, I'm gonna try a ram again with these harder hitting rounds. My front sight really needs some paint. Ooh, got a pretty good hit on him. I saw him shake. I'll try the left one. I just had a feeling he was an easier kill. I'll try him one more time though. Ooh, shook him a little bit. Let's try something close. Let's try just so you get an idea of the power you have here, a limb of the tree here. 357 Magnum, knocks them around. Hit the stop sign. Ran out. That's the only problem. 6 shots. but 6 big ones if you want them. 6 powerful round, 357, keep those separate. Okay, nothing worse when you're loading, reloading 357, and the case you pick up is a 38. It's short, you know. So if you reload, you know what I'm talking about. Probably going to fire 6 more here at least, okay? Just can't resist. I could shoot this thing all day, even into the night here, as we're approaching that. Come to think of it, getting colder and darker. Boy, good old double action revolver from the 70s, the good old days. Actually, we're in a way living in the good old days of firearms choices. There's a lot of good firearms out there, but you can imagine some of you, a lot of you, way more than I expect, really like these old revolvers, and it's neat. It's neat to see that. It's cool. For me, there's even an added special, nature feeling about these, because again, when I was getting into collecting firearms and going into gun shops and trading and looking at them, these were the guns that were there, and when I see one of these, even if it's not my favorite revolver, it's just, there it is. It's like a Smith & Wesson Model 59 or a 39 or 44 Magnum, a Colt, Model 29. Those were the guns that were lying there. There were no Glocks, no M&Ps, except for revolvers, no Springfield XDs, XDM, none of that existed in the 70s and even into the early 80s. So these were the firearms that people were choosing amongst. So it's pretty neat to have one in hand. It really is. Came all the way from Worcester, Massachusetts this week. Boom. Click. We had a light hit there, didn't we? Yeah, we had a light one. Okay. One advantage of a revolver, you can just keep pulling the trigger, right? Unlike with an automatic. So it's just a light hammer strike. I was firing double action, and if you're going to have a light hammer strike, particularly if somebody has worked on the action and lightened it up a little bit, that's when it'll happen. Okay, you'll get a light strike sometimes. One of the things people used to do with Smith & Wessons especially is that there's a screw on a Smith & Wesson right here, and they'd loosen the mainspring to get a lighter trigger pull double action, especially if it was a carry gun. I guess people still do that, I don't know. And have that action slicked up, and I've seen so many people make the mistake though, where it gets, it feels great, but it doesn't have enough spring, enough inertia to fire the round. So I didn't feel like this one was that light, but at that time. Again, I'm not going to charge you any extra for this, but what happens when you're firing single action, notice where that hammer is? Okay, it's empty. I pull the trigger. See, when you pull it back like that and fire single action. Now when I fire double, now watch your gun make me a liar. I've not had one of these in so long. Now notice when the hammer falls. See, it fell from about right there. Whereas when you cock it all the way, it's falling from way back there. I'll do it again, double action. Notice when it falls. See, it was about right there. So that's just enough to give you more inertia, more fall to the hammer to make it fall. So I can shoot this thing all day. Single action, that would not happen. We would not get a light strike. We might get it again though with with the double action pull on it. Okay, so no charge for that. No bill will be sent to your house. So anyway, the Trooper Mark III, cool gun, kind of a counterpart to the L-frame in the Smith line. This particular one, the Mark III, was manufactured from 69 to 80, about 82, along in there. Then there was like a Mark V, a Mark IV, I think. There was the originals. There are a lot of different models of this firearm. Again, it's very similar to the Python. Although it's made a little bit differently, I think it's not made to be as delicate perhaps. If you put the Python barrel on this gun, it's basically, that's what you got there in terms of the look and the feel of it and the dimensions and everything. That's kind of neat, because I had a Python in this barrel length, and when I'm messing with it and opening the cylinder, it takes me back to those days of my 6-inch Python. I never had a Trooper until now. So We appreciate the gun parlor sending it our way. Now we have a Trooper. I'm going to be looking for some grips. I'm going to take another look at that action, make sure it's not been lightened up more than I like, and we'll bring it out for a chapter 2, and it might look a little different. Life is good when you got a revolver.